if you can seriously master one of these skills, one of these deep learning skills, deep learning. So if you can master one of these deep learning skills, you will automatically convert your brain into a deep learning brain model. That's going to happen easily, okay? The next phase above that is that if you practice this daily, relentlessly, for 21 days in a row, for then 60 days in a row, for then 120 days in a row, you are going to be able to create ideas, create and apply your ideas to potential problems that are personal to you, that drive some kind of emotional response or feeling to you. And through that, through this deep learning process, you will find new passions, you will ultimately find new purposes, and then you will find that ultimate calling. The ultimate calling that excites your brain. Now, deep learning is all about the skill of feelings and emotions. Being able to leverage this. How do we do this? What are the practices? And I'm going to identify 8. Now, you just have to master one of them. But if you can master all 8, you can master all 8 of these practices, you are at Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, that level, okay? I don't know anyone that can master 8 of them, but if you can do it, that is unbelievable. But if you master one of them, you're on your way. Okay, so the first one is reflection. Reflection practices. These are reflection practices, and reflection practices are practices that help you assess, recall your day's events, and then using your feelings and emotions. How did you feel about it? What went through your brain? What did you think? All these things, when we are assessing our experiences, when we're listing down our experiences, and then we're listing how we felt, when you combine that, you get a better understanding of not only yourself, but of the situation. And then you work to see how you can change that situation. Because if you get a bad experience, you've got to understand why it was a bad experience. You've got to understand the feelings of that bad experience. So then you can understand your next steps. Next one, curiosity. Curiosity, what is curiosity? I mean, curiosity is really wonder. It's really about what I don't know, but what I really want to know. So for example, I saw these police officers, so 5 police cars next door. Now, I don't know what was going on, but I wanted to know. I wanted to find out, wanted to investigate. They were there for 2 or 3 hours. What was going on? This is a powerful, deep learning practice, because once you become curious, once your brain knows the practices, the skills of becoming curious, all of a sudden you start to build a relationship with your old neurons, because at the moment most people are only using 10% of their brain neurons because the rest of them have gone to sleep. Why? Because through the old traditional educational process, people have automated their process through the data. So they reproduce data and automate the process. That's the traditional system. The problem with that system now, it's not working. It's not working because AI can do that. AI can't do this because this requires feelings and emotions. AI can't do this because, again, it requires feelings and emotions. What's exciting the brain? To be curious, it needs to affect you emotionally. So you have to have a feelings and emotion affected so you can be curious as to why you want to know something, why you want to discover something. Like, there's no point, I always say this, you're going to introduce mathematics to a girl or science to a boy. Okay, here, let's talk about science, let's talk about mathematics. So what? Why do I care? Unless you're exciting the brain, and the brain needs to be curious. So you have to create a system that's going to increase the curiosity so that in that process, the person learning about something is going to be more curious to learn more about it. Another one, which is quite amazing, failure. See, deep learning has practices in reflection, practices for curiosity, practices in failure. So we learn a lot from our failures, but unfortunately, most people have not learned the practices that failure as a deep learner is actually a huge ingredient. It actually helps you grow and develop. So when you fail, and if you know how to utilize that failure, you grow. Because what happens as a deep learner, you're actually trying to solve a problem to a personal passion that's aligned with you, so you're going to fail. But through that process of assessing, analysing, thinking how you felt about that failure and being on that journey, you grow and develop. So we use failure as an ingredient. The problem with the traditional system, the problem with the traditional education system, it took this ingredient, this massive ingredient away, because it said, oh no, we're going to grade you now. You're an A student, you're an E student, you're not doing very, very well because you're not a very good speller. And it took away this because people had this fear, the fear of failure. Now, the next one is drawing. And I'm not talking about drawing as an artist. I'm not talking about drawing to become a great drawer. No. But a lot of times what happens is, like I know with myself, when I was trying to grasp the philosophy, the understanding, the technical background of AI, I really found it really difficult grasping all that as a surface learner by the old traditional method. And so when I started to draw it, I made physical feelings, I made physical connections, and my feelings and emotions started to connect with the drawings. And so given that, when you can, drawing is a powerful deep learning exercise that allows you to start to think about the concept of the thing that you're excited about. And when you draw it, you start to then use feelings and imagination and wonder. And then, because you're getting something that might be a little bit difficult and you're putting it in a drawing that could make sense to you. Now, it's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you miss gaps, because that then creates a level of curiosity, which then, once the brain gets excited, because the key here, the key to deep learning practices is to get the brain excited. Because if you don't get the brain excited, it doesn't matter what you're learning. It could be mathematics, it could be AI, it could be science, it could be English. It doesn't matter. We're trying to get the brain excited so much that it wants more. It gets excited by wanting so much more, by needing so much more, because it's trying to solve a problem. That's what we're trying to achieve as a deep learner. Now, I'm not saying you've got to learn all of these, but I'm saying if you can dominate all these, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you dominate one, you're a deep learner. But if you dominate 1, 2, 3, 4, oh my God, you are going to levels that of such heights that you will be unbelievably creating ideas, creating concepts that maybe your brain hasn't even thought of now. Let me tell you another one. Writing. And again, I'm not telling you to become a great writer, but what I'm saying is writing deep learning practices that allows you to write non-stop 5, 10 minutes. Just allow your thoughts to come out. Allow something that's just could be bothering you. Allow something that is grabbing your attention, because your feelings and emotions control your brain. And they then are really trying to tell you something, trying to tell someone else something. Sometimes we're trying to hide that, put it away, because your experiences are unique to you. No one's ever experienced you. No one's ever experienced your journey but you. So you've got your own code. Now with writing, it's not about commas and grammar, it's about just allowing your thoughts to come on paper, because when they come on paper, then you start to think. And when you start to write as a deep learner, your brain, again, your neurons are getting excited. What are we doing? Why are we writing here? And it's not a question of, sometimes you can write. I remember when I was doing this exercise, I was writing a lot of stuff that didn't make really sense to me afterward, but then I wrote some stuff that, oh my God, I can't believe I came up with these ideas. So eventually what happens is you start to write and your brain starts to get excited and start visits events that you probably haven't even thought about for 20, 30 years. And sometimes what happens is, as deep learners, it's the experience, not necessarily reading a book. You're better off reading one book as a deep learner than 100 books as in the traditional educational method. Because that one book is going to change your life as a deep learner, because you're going to be doing all this. Okay, it's really, really powerful. Now this one here is interesting, teaching. Teaching. When you teach it, one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos, because when I became a deep learner, I was taught these. These are not my inventions, by the way. These are things that were taught to me. So I was taught all these different practices. Okay, and then I saw that, teaching. And so teaching, what happens is when you have to teach it to someone, it means you have to try then understand it better. You have to try and simplify the concept. You have to try and think about how is someone else going to understand it. So you have to try and break it up. You have to try and feel what the other person's feeling, because you're using your feelings, you're using your emotions to get the point across. You're not just presenting, you have to teach it. A lot of times I like to teach it to kids. I like to teach it to my kids, because what happens is you've got to try and get it across in a way that they're going to understand. And in that process, during that process, you're using feelings and emotions, because you have to get the teaching across, and then you're learning it. And then not only that, because this happened to me a lot of times when I'm teaching something, I'm doing it really for myself because I'm becoming better at learning it, but then I also know within that teaching there's gaps. There's gaps in my knowledge, there's gaps in my skills. So this is a great tool, because once you recognise those gaps, you then become more excited and you think, okay, well, I've got to close those gaps. Because the gaps are great. We want to have gaps as deep learners. We don't want to be perfect. We want to be creative. We want to make mistakes, and we want to have those gaps. See, the traditional method is we got embarrassed by these gaps. No, we love these gaps. We want these gaps, because these gaps, when you have your calling, are what's going to drive you to that exciting brain and to that calling. Okay? Now, what else? What other things? Knowledge converter. Now, knowledge converter, that's another deep learning practice. What is knowledge converter? A lot of people, especially in this era, we tend to think, oh, this person knows so much, this person's so good, there's so much information on the internet, there's so much information on social media. A lot of people think information is knowledge. No, information is not knowledge. People think information makes you smarter. It doesn't. It's just data. It's just data. Information is just data. I mean, who's the president of Italy? I've got no idea at the moment. I think I know, but it's just data at the moment, because with deep learning, we are about knowledge that's meaningful to us to be applied towards a problem. So knowledge is something that we care about, that we can apply. So what this teaches you is to discriminate the information and data that comes into you, to choose the information that you care about, and then with the practice to convert it to knowledge. And when you convert it to knowledge, as you're improving your knowledge, as a deep learner, you're getting closer, your brain's getting more excited, and you're getting closer to that goal, to that passion, to that calling. That's another great. Now, all these can be done independently. Okay, they don't have to be done, you don't have to do them all. You just have to master one of these, And there's so many different practices, deep learning practices on these. The key is to be consistent. And the last one, and there's plenty more, but this is the one that I love, experimental. And I love this one. This is one of my favourite because experimental is when you're applying knowledge to a real life project. You're experimenting it to a real life situation. So when we're doing something, when we're applying something, it's okay, it's nice to learn something, it's nice to get some skills, but when we've got a problem, especially if it's real, and especially if we can experiment it with a real life and knowing we're gonna fail, it's okay, because we know failure is part of it. Experimental is a powerful deep learning tool because it helps our brain neurons get excited, help us grow, and through this process, you meet new people, you align yourself with like-minded people, and when you fail, you learn so much about yourself, you learn so much about your character, about who you are, and it's when you fail and make mistakes, that is the moment. That is the make or break moments for you, because it's the failures, and yes, you're going to get criticism, and yes, you're going to be embarrassed, and yes, there's going to be toxic people out there saying, oh, what are you doing that for? Why are you doing that for? Why are you on video doing this? You're in AI. But this whole journey is what I'm doing. I am becoming a deeper learner, and these practices were all taught to me. So these are not practices that I invented. And let me be clear, deep learning is something that's been around forever. This is not something that's just coming now. It's not a gimmick. You can go and research it. You can go and check it yourself. You can go and do your own findings about deep learning. But deep learning is where you want to be now. Because if you can dominate just one of these practices, if you can dominate 8 of these practices, I promise you, if you can dominate all 8 of these, I promise you, you will become a billionaire. No doubt. I promise you that. But if you can only dominate one, you can only master one. At the moment, I'm focusing on 1 or 2, okay? I'd like to dominate them all, but I'm focusing on 1 or 2, which is teaching and reflection. They're the ones I'm looking at. I'm reflecting daily on what I do, on my experiences, on my feelings and emotions, and I'm teaching. I'm actually teaching. This is my teaching process. This is my deep learning exercise, teaching you. And it has to go live. I know, I can't just put videos and not go live. I have to send it out. It has to be critiqued. I have to fail, because that is the process of being a deep learner. And in this era of AI, and I am in AI, in this era of AI, and knowing where AI is now and where it's going to go, there is no other option. If you're not a deep learner, in this era, it's going to be very difficult. I wouldn't say catastrophic, but it's going to be close to catastrophic, not just for yourself, because you'll become a slave to the AI industry and the people that do dominate AI, but it'll be catastrophic for humanity, because if deep learning becomes deep learning AI instead of deep learning humans, where this self learns as a deep learner before we become deep learners, the majority, you'll have the rise of the machines that will dominate humans, and that is not good. That is a disaster.